Hello everyone. So yesterday I made a post in the Bliss community where I shared a short video of a WhatsApp modal that I created natively in Bricks, and a few of you suggested I create a video to show exactly how I was able to put it together, which is the reason for making this video. So you can see it has two templates, one for the icon that is positioned to the bottom right, and then the modal itself, which is also a template. When clicked, it triggers the modal. Okay, so this is what we are going to build now. So without much ado, let's get started. As you can see, I have only two plugins installed, which is Automatic CSS and Advanced Custom Fields Pro. Now you don't really need these two plugins to create it, but then Automatic CSS, as we all know by now, just helps me to speed up my workflow. And then advanced the ACF also, what it does, it helps us to make the messages here are dynamic. So if you are adding this functionality to a client's website, then they don't, anytime they want to add a new message to the modal, they don't have to contact you to do it. So all you have to do is create an options page in the backend for them. They can go there and then add new messages and all that. And the messages are repeater fields. The repeater fields are only available in the pro version of ACF. The reason I have this, but then if you don't need any of those stuffs, if you are creating this on your personal website, then you don't really need these ones. So let's get started. So here I have already created this modal, this template, a pop-up template actually. Just for those who let me quickly go back to the so you actually go to Breaks templates, and then you create a new template, and then you set the type to pop up, you publish it, and then you edit in Bricks. So let's get started. I'll start by adding a main wrapper. I'm going to call this WhatsApp modal. Now inside this modal, I'm going to have three different sections: the header, the body, and then the footer. So I'm going to have this 1, 2, 3. I'm going to call this the header. My keyboard can be something else. So this is the body, and this is the footer. Okay, it didn't select it. All right, so footer. So let's back to the header. We are going to need 2 extra divs in it because we need one for the media and one for this content here. So let me close this because I don't need it right now. So I'm going to add 1 div and one block, and I'm also going to need the SVG, which is going to be our close button. So in here, I can actually have the close button outside of the header, but I would like to keep it there for now. So here I'm going to call this media, and this is going to be content, and this I'm going to call it close. Now in the media, I'll drop an image element over there, and in the content I'm going to drop in a heading and a basic text. The heading is going to be the main name, and this is going to be the status. I need to put in some content here, so I'm going to call this you can actually have this say let's say online or offline similarly, but I have my set to typically replies within let's say 3 minutes. And then I'm gonna have I think I'm just gonna have to move this to the top here. So I have my media in here. I have my media. So back to the body. The body is where we have these messages in here, so I'm just going to drop in 1 block. And the reason I have to even use this is because we are going to have repeater fields especially in here. So I'm going to call this message, and inside the message we are going to need 3 basic text. This is going to be for the name. Okay, my name. Let me just set this to, and this is going to be the text, or let's say message text, whatever I want to call it. So let's say, hi there, how can I help you? Then we'll move on to the next one, which is our time. Time, oh my bad, this is supposed to be my time. Okay, time. for this I can actually just set this to a time tag, and for this we are going to do this, we're going to set this to, let's say, date, because we want to get like the current time. Okay, so we're going to use this. You can even use this, your preference. So I'm going to select this, and then we are going to set, because this one is currently pulling in the date, so we want to get the time. So we're going to set this to G, is it A? Okay, so I think it's G I, yeah, so GIA. You can actually search for the format. I think it's WordPress time format. I don't know if it's a date format or time format. Yeah, customer date and time. So when you open this page, customize this, you move down to format, string examples. So I think this is the format that I just used. If you want to add the seconds and all that, which wouldn't make sense because it won't be dynamic and be updating every second unless you are using JavaScript. But here, because we are using something that loads on page load, it sets the time, so we can use the GIA1 as we have it set here, so we have the time over there. So then we move on to the footer where we insert our button, and I'm going to call the button CTA. You can leave it as button. Okay, so now we have our foundation. Let me set this to a P tag. We now have our foundation that we are going to build on. So I'm going to go okay, let me just quickly set my name here. If you notice, you realize I have name here and I have name here, but then they have okay, thanks, I just saw this. I'm going to call this main name. Yeah, main name, and then we have the name here, and the reason is simple. This one is small and this one is big. I can actually call both of them name and then add a helper class to this one and then do it down, like dial the size down, but I don't think it's necessary in my use. So I'm going to set this to use the BEM to apply the classes to all of them, and there we go. So now that we have the classes and everything set, I can start by first adding an image here. I'm going to select, let me use this image here. I'm going to set the size to thumbnail and this to a figure. The aspect ratio, I'm going to leave that out. I set that to 1 and set this to cover, no caption actually. And then this one, the size, I think 52 or 60 RAM, 6 RAM. Yeah, 6 RAM should be fine. And I'm going to set the border radius to 50 view width, which is going to give it a perfect rounded one. But then you can see it's not showing the border radius that I just added. So to have it show, we need to set the overflow on the image to hidden, as you will see here. And now back to our the close modal, the close button here. I'm going to select our icon, and I'm going to set this, let's say 1.5 M, I think here, 1.5 M, both sides. We're going to set the color to white, but then let's move on to, so back to the header. I need to set this to align this way and then have everything centered. And then I'm going to set, going to give it a little bit of spacing around it. And while I'm here, I also need to set this to position relative, because we are going to be positioning this icon absolutely. So I'm going to move down and set the background color to my primary. I'm just going to set this to primary, primary dark. I think it is too dark. Well, it can be anything. So primary, and then I'm just going to set the typography on this level to white, so it affects all the text elements in it. And while I'm here, you can see down the icon has the fill color set to that, so I'm going to set this to here. And while I'm here, I need to position this absolute, and then we need it to be somewhere around here. So the top, I'm going to set it to this, and then on the right is going to be that, and that moves it to this side here. Now next thing is, as you can see, I think it's prudent that I set the size and everything. So I'm going to go to my settings here, template settings, and then pop up. And first thing I'll do here is the content padding here. I don't want this padding here because I want to control it myself. So I'm going to turn this to 0 to remove it entirely. And then for the width, I am personally setting this to 40 rem. You can use any size that works for your design. And on mobile, I don't want it touching the edges, so I can set this to, let's say, 90 view width, like that, or you can even use 90%. But I think the view width property works for me, so I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, I'm not really having an issue with this. When we are done, we are going to position this to the end and like that, and then set the right paddings here and there. But for the sake of what we are doing, I'll keep it in the middle. When we are done, we then position it however we want. So back to the design itself, I think the next thing we need to focus on, okay, we are not done with the header yet. We need some column spacing. I think small should be fine, and this font size of this text should be extra small, like that. And I think this font size is pretty much okay. That would be too small. I think this is okay. Yeah, this is okay for now. So back to the body, we need some padding in the body itself. I think because I use the same padding elements, I'm going to use the same thing here. And we need a background, as you would see here. We need that background here, and that is the WhatsApp background. I saw this one, I downloaded it from GitHub. So here, the first one here, you can get it from here. So I downloaded mine from here. You can also do this, run the same search, and then just look for this guy here and then download from there. So I'm going to set I already have the image downloaded, so I'm just going to set it as my background. And careful when you download it, try and compress it, because the size is too huge for a modal of this size. So when you compress it, you should be somewhere close to this. I think you can compress it further to get a better size, but that is what I have for now, and I'm using that. So yeah, I think from here I'm going to go to the message itself now and set its background to white. And also this is going to need this could also use some padding, so I'm setting that at S. And as you can see, it has some border radius and stuff, so I'm going to set that border radius as well to M, like that. But then I don't need the border radius at this end here, because we'll be using as you can see, that pointed indicator over there. But I can leave it there like that for now. I'm just going to leave it there like that. When we get there, we want to do those are just like some aesthetics. So when I get there, I'll work on that one. So while I'm still in here, I need to space these things out. So let me say 0.2, 0.5 m, let's say 3.5 m. Yeah. And this font, this text right here is going to use I think, I don't know, small, yeah. And this text is going to be extra small, and then we are going to align itself to the end, so it moves to the other end. But then I think the font color, we need a lighter shade. It shouldn't be too obvious. Let's see. Okay, let me just use whatever that is being offered here. It's very much not so obvious, but I think it isn't bad either, so it's going to leave it at that. And then the name is also going to be grayed out a little bit. So now I think we are getting closer. I think we are. Okay, so the next thing is the footer here, and the footer, we are going to have to it also needs some padding. Just to be consistent, we are using this for our inner spacing. And then for this, I'm just going to remove this and say start charts. Then we're going to add an SVG inside here. I'm going to use the WhatsApp, and the fill color is got to be white. And then let's say 1.5 m. We might need to actually change that later, but for now let's work with that. So background, setting the background to this, actually medium should be fine, right? Yeah. And everything that is inside this footer needs to be centered like that. And the width of this is supposed to be 100%, so it takes up mean width. mean width, and then it also needs some border radius, 50 view width, so I get that rounded effect. And the back here, I think the icon is too huge, so let me see, 1M, 1.25, yeah, I think 1.25 is fine. So I want it positioned to the left. You can have it any way you want to have it. And for this, I think I'll change the text color to white as well. Change the text color to white. This would like, if you should scan this, if you are checking for accessibility, I'm not an accessibility expert, but this might probably, because of the color that we are using for the background and then the text color, it might trigger accessibility concerns. So in which case you might want to consider making changes for that. Okay, so I think now we have our base that we can actually work with, which is looking like this. We are not pretty much done though, but let me go back to the modal settings and add my border radius over here. I'm using M here, so now we have this here. So I think yeah, we are getting closer. Now the next thing we want to fix is this. When this X is clicked on, we want to close the modal, so we need to set an interaction on it. And we say when someone clicks on this, we want to, well, I'm using animation, and I'm going to use, I'm using the zoom animation, and it's going to be zoom out. Let me zoom out down, and what we want to close is a pop-up, which is the WhatsApp modal. So you need to select it from here. If you leave this at self, then if you want to click on it, it's just going to hide itself. So I think, yeah, we have something here. Let me save that. Now here we need to fix something here. You can see if we have more than one messages, there is no space, so we need to come here and then give it a row gap of perhaps small, should be fine. And now for now I'll leave this here. Let me just change this message. Let's say click here to contact us. Now, yeah, something like that. Yeah, so I think, but then one thing you would see, you can see on mobile devices, this like there is this wrapping happening here. If you don't want that wrapping to happen, then you just have to make sure you select the header, and then you explicitly set this to no wrap, and it's going to cascade down to mobile as well to ensure it doesn't wrap. So I think we are pretty much done, unless I'm missing out on something. Okay, yeah, so we are left with this effect on the image here. So for this one, I'm going to do this on this on the div itself. So first of all, I'm just going to go down to border and then set this as well to 50 view width, so it matches that. And while I'm here, I'm going to set this to solid, the border to solid, and I'm setting that to 2. Okay, now if you look closely, you can see everything is off. It's like the whole thing is off. To fix that, this is a div, so the display, I'll set that to flex, and now everything should be in shape. I think something is still a bit off here, but we can fix that. Let me see. Okay, so this is still a little bit off. I think I missed something somewhere. Yeah, so it's actually this, which pretty much should fix that. Yeah, should actually fix that. Now one thing is left, which is that dot below the image down there. So what I'm going to do is, because it's going to be a pseudo element positioned absolute, we need to set this this wrapper, the media wrapper, to relative, and then now we can now write our short and simple CSS. I'm positioning that after, so our content is going to be empty. Oh my bad. I'm going to give it a width, and the width is, let's say, 1.5 rem, and the height is also going to be 1.5 rem, and then let's give it a background of, let's say, red, because we want to see it, and you can see it right over there, red. And then we're going to give it a border radius of 50 view width. Oh man, I think I typed something wrong. Okay, over there. Yeah, so we have it now. And then we are going to give it a border of 2 pixels solid. Okay, solid white, so it looks like that. But now you can see it's trying to squish, move the div, and the whole thing is looking so messed up right there. So we need to position it absolute like that, and we want it to be at the bottom. So at the bottom we set the bottom to 0, which moves it to the bottom, and then we want to move it to the right, so we set that as well to 0, and now it is positioned over there. But obviously I don't want it to be red. Actually, here you can have there's so much you can do here. There's so much that is possible in your ACF fields. You can have actually you can create a function that checks let's say whether the opening, assuming you have an opening and a closing time, let's say 9 a.m. and you close at, let's say, 5 p.m. So you can have a function that checks the current time against the 9 p.m. It checks if the current time is greater than 9 p.m. or less than 5 p.m. If it's true, it's going to return, let's say, online. If it's false, it will say offline. Then you can use that as data attributes. You can just come here, set a data attribute here, and then depending on what that is returning, you are going to set the color for this attribute here to either, let's say, online or off, depending on the value. If it's online or offline, then you use that to determine the color. So you have 2 styles here, one for online and one for when the data attribute is offline. So that one will determine whether it's red or green. But in my case, I want this to be my I think is it my secondary color. Yeah, I think that's my secondary color, so it looks like that. So there's so much that you can actually do here, but I'm not going to cover it in this video, else it's going to be super long. This is supposed to be very simple, but if there's something else you notice, you realize this chat box is so too long, which shouldn't be the case. So we are going to set the width of this to fit content, so it only takes the width of the text that is in it. So just to create more this, I'm gonna add a BR tag here, so this looks like this. Yeah, so now I think we now have our modal. I don't think there is anything else I'm missing out on. Nope. Yeah, so okay, so we are good to go. So now the next thing we want to do is let's position it to the bottom right. So we go to templates, and then we want to move it. Okay, so first of all, I need to move it to the bottom and then to the right, and down here I'm going to set this to what? Okay, so this, and it's going to move it like that, and then here just to move it a little bit off, so it keeps in line with whatever that we are having over there. So this is what we have, and like that. So I'm going to leave this, but for us to be able to trigger this pop-up on every page on our website, we need to set this to entire website. Currently we haven't set any interactions here to tell the pop-up to load, maybe on page load or anything. We don't have any of those things set up. So the pop-up will be loaded in our content, but then it is not showing. So let me see, if we come, where is it, where is the pop-up? Yeah, so this is our pop-up. You can see it says hide. So if I should change this value to show and I hit enter, then our pop-up shows. This is our pop-up. So it's in the body, but then there is nothing that is triggering it, so it's going to remain hidden until we summon it to show on the screen. So let's take care of that. Okay, so I just noticed one thing. The close button here is actually supposed to I'm supposed to add this here, so that when someone hovers over it, they know they are actually supposed to click on it. So I'm going to set this, and you can actually add an area label to this. Let's say area label, let's say close modal. I think one other thing, I think the best would be to wrap this in a div and then add the area label to the div itself instead of the SVG itself. But I think this also works. I'm not an expert in that though, but this is one thing you can do. And the next thing we want to correct here before we leave here is that we want to set this to a UL, so that this is going to be a UL, and it adds some padding, so we are going to get rid of that padding. Okay, so we already have this set here for us. So here this is going to be an LI, and this is also going to be an LI. Actually, when we start using a query loop, there we will just delete this and have only one of these over here. Okay, so you can see there is some weird white space being added at the top. I think that is coming from our UL. Yeah, here and there. So we're just gonna reset that to 0. I didn't ask it to come. I just realized I didn't have a background. I need to explicitly set this actually. So I think with this we are done with the modal. Now we need the button that is going to summon it. So next thing we need to do is to create a button or an icon. So let's move on. We are going to create a new one. So let's go to create, and we are going to call this, let's say WhatsApp button, whatever you want to call it though. So I'm going to set this to a section, and then I'm going to create it, and here we have it. So I'm going to click edit. Yeah, so with this one, all I need is a div, and inside this div I'm going to need an SVG inside of this. Now this is WhatsApp icon. Okay, I'm going to call it WhatsApp icon, and then this is the icon, right? So inside of this I'm going to insert our WhatsApp, and I'll use the BEM. Actually, there is some bug over here, but I want to show the bug so that you don't end up spending hours to understand why something is not working. So I'm going to just pretend, oh, I'm just doing it the normal flow and everything, so that we all debug this together. So here I'm going to give this icon a size, let's say 3 rem. 3 rem should be fine, and the color is going to be let's say the color of this is going to be my action color. Yeah, and then yeah, so with this gentleman, let me see, with this one I need some padding, so let's say 0.75 m. I think that's pretty big though, but I can I'll just come here and then set this to 50 view width, like that, and then the width will be content, so like that, so it comes in there. Actually, what I can do is okay, let me first, instead of me hard coding that, I'm going to create a locally scoped variable. I'm going to call it icon size, and this icon size is going to be let me see, let's say I was using 3 rem there, let me see 4 rem. Then I can now use this for this as the icon size. So I'm going to call this icon, just copy that and paste that over here. Now for the same thing that we have over there, I'm going to come back to this, and I'm not going to have this automatically set to fit content anymore. I'm just going to do this, let's say 1.5, hit enter like that. So now we can actually just go down there and dial everything, but as if you notice, this it's not really in it, so I'm going to set this to flex, and then just ensure I am centering everything within it. Now we need this to be to this side here, but for the sake of what I want to show, you can see the background of this is actually going to be white. Okay, you can have it any color you want, but let's say I want mine to be white. So when it's white, you can see slightly, because there's some box shadow here, you can see it slightly, but then on a white background you're only going to be seeing the icon itself. So I want to add a slight box shadow around it, and let's say just gonna come here and then set this to, let's say 0.15, and then the blur let's say 15, and then on the y axis I want to move it down a little, and then on the x-axis down like that. So now you see it looks that way. So even on white, when it's against a white background, it's still very visible. So now we want to position it fixed. Okay, we need a fixed position, and we want to move it to our right. So I'm going to set the right to M to ensure that it aligns to the container width that we have. Then at the bottom, I can have that set to, let's say, M again. Where is it? Why is my icon? It's not showing. So we need to give it a very high Z index to ensure it's on top of every element. So as you can see, this is our element. This is it over there. So over here, you can use any values that you wish, but these are the ones I'm using for the purpose of this demo. Now you can see when I load this page on the front end, you can actually see the icon, but it's only on this template here. And we want this template to show on every single page on our website. So to do that, we are going to have to set this. Currently, I want you to pay attention to something. Currently, you can see this icon here. So when I go into my template and I go to condition, I'm going to set it to entire website. But then we are going to use the hook. We are going to use a hook to ensure that it is added below the footer. Okay, so I'm going to set this to, for instance, if I'm on the home page, for instance, you can see that icon there. Currently it's entire website, right? So when I do this, you can see you still can't see the icon anywhere on the page, right? So we're going to set this to, let's say, WP. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right. Is this Sridhar Katanam? He made a post in the group where he talked about this, so that's where I got this trick from. So now when we refresh the page, the icon is actually here, but then I wanted to show you this bug. Now what I noticed is that when you style anything and it has class, when you style your element on class, it won't work. Like the moment you are using, I don't know if it's because of this hook that we are using, but the classes are not, like, it doesn't take effect over here. When you inspect this element, you can see the class is there, all right, but there are no styles over there. Okay, so I did a lot of back and forth with this, but then what I would do now is I simply select it until this bug is fixed. I copy the styles from the class and I paste it on the ID, and I do the same for the icon. I copy the styles and I paste it here. Now when I save my page, okay, still it's not showing here. So the next debugging we will do is go to our dashboard, template settings, please load fast, and then we go to performance. I'm going to briefly change this to this to regenerate our CSS. Come back here, and now you can see now all of a sudden it's showing here, but there's still something very off over there. So let me set this back to this and see if it's okay. So it's still gone again. So for now, let me see. Okay, so let me just get rid of the classes. Yeah, so I had a lot of stuff. I was doing a lot of back and forth with this before I got it right. Okay, yeah, so I think the reason it wasn't working is that I moved the classes to the ID level, but there is something missing. You know, we wrote some custom CSS here. Now when we copied it to the ID level, it doesn't bring the root again, it just leaves some dots here. So just doing this like this fixes that. Okay, still we need to go back here. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. If you know the solution, please leave it in the comment section. But this is the workflow I was using that to fix that problem, and now our icon is showing here, and now it's on every page. There are a few things we need to do right now. Sorry about that. So now we need to change this to a button. So our HTML tag, I'm going to set this to a button, and to avoid that error that comes in the search in your console, I'm going to set the type to button again. Now we need to set an interaction on this so that when this is clicked, we summon the pop-up. This is actually the last thing we're going to do, and we are done with this tutorial. So we can start an animation, and we want to use the zoom. This time around we are zooming in, and our pop-up is what we want to zoom in. And now when we click on this, and then our pop-up is in. When we do that, it's gone. But you can see there's something happening. The scroll bar leaves the viewport, which causes some slides shifting to be happening, right? And we don't want that. Before I go and fix that, I'm going to set this to 0.35s, and I need to open my template, which is my WhatsApp modal. Let me open that in a new page. So my modal, just going to go to template setting, pop up, and there are a few things I want to enable the scroll body and also disable autofocus. It's not like this is giving me any issues, but I'm going to disable that for now. And then what else? Let me see, 0.35s. And now when I reload this page and I click on that, it comes. Now there's no longer any shifting that happens. Now if you don't want, see, you can close it, open, right? So now if you don't want this overlay, you can simply on here, you can simply set the overlay color to transparent, okay, transparent, and now there is no longer any overlay. So you can still open it and the page is still visible. When you click anywhere on the page, it closes the modal. Then we have that. But then when this is clicked, we want to open a chart, right? So we come back here and then we set external link. Let's say https wa.me/233 248208744. So that's actually my own number. So, and I'll actually set this to open in a new tab because I don't want it to open in the same tab that I am on. So when I click on that and I click that, it opens a new tab that opens this like that. So when I click this, it's actually going to open my app, which I don't want to do right now. So I'm going to close that. And I think we are pretty much done with this. Now, the only thing I want to look at next is the query loop setup. So now let's whip up. Let's go to ACF. I'm actually going to use an ACF options page for this. So I'm going to go to here and I'm going to call this WhatsApp chat. Yeah, so no parents. I'm going to go to this advanced settings, go on to dash cons, and I'm gonna search for WhatsApp and then copy that and then paste it here, and I'm gonna leave everything else the way it is. This is pretty much just put our stuff here. So I need to add my link. So the first thing is we want the image to be dynamic, this as well to be dynamic, this to be dynamic, and then most importantly the messages. I think just not to waste your time, the video is getting too long, which I'm not happy about, so I'm just going to do just this one here. Every other thing should be pretty much very simple to do. So here I'm going to come here straight away and set this to repeater, and I'm going to call this messages, and then the field I'm adding here is going to be called it's a text area. You can have it to rich text or whatever. Message. So please pay attention. This is messages and this is message, okay? And this is required. Okay, want to set this to 2, and the formatting, we have to set it to automatically add BR tags, the breaking tags, and I will set this to required to at least force the client to enter at least one message over there, which is very important. And also, while you have this set to at least one, when they try adding this, they must at least add one message, okay? So they don't, the system doesn't just allow them to add an empty message or whatsoever there. So now we have that set in there. So this is our first message. This is a test. Okay, how can I help you today? Another message. We are running a promo. Click here to learn about it. So if you're not using rich text, then you have to actually do all your hrefs yourself. So So let's say I'm just gonna put a hashtag there because I don't actually have any link. So click here. So I'm gonna save update. Now to have this one take advantage of our new query loop, we need to refresh the page in order to load it in the builder. So now back here, I'm going to delete this gentleman here, and this I'm going to enable the query loop on it and select ACF repeater from here. And in here I'm going to set okay, we don't have the name and all that. The only thing that is dynamic is the text here. So I'm going to set this to message, and when I save that, now on the front end, when I click on that, how can I help you today, we are currently running a promo, blah blah blah, and you can see everything showing over there. So now when the client goes to the back end and then enters another message on the front end, that is going to show this is another message. Now I just realized we forgot one thing, which is the pausing dots that I had over here. So let's quickly get back to work and put that over there. So to add that, we are still using a pseudo element, so we need to set this to okay, it's already set to fixed, so we should still pretty much work. So so we're still using our after trick. So our content is empty, width 1.5 rem, my bad, height 1.5 rem. Actually, you can just set the width and set the aspect ratio to 1 to avoid having to do this, but that's fine. And background, I'm just going to set it to red for now. Okay, yeah, background red. Okay, we are still not seeing our absolute element, but let's just proceed. We want to have it at the top, so let's set to 0, and then yeah, top 0, I think, yeah, and then to our right, so we set that to 0 as well, and we want to position it absolute. Want to position absolute, yeah, I think, yeah, with this. Okay, let me see, why is my, let me see, test. Okay, that is not showing as well. Let me, oh, okay, my bad. I think, yeah, so this is it, the space over there. So we need to add a border radius, 50 view width. Why do I keep adding spaces? All right, so with this, we now need to, the next thing we need to do is we need to give it the right color that we want. Actually, I think the red is fine. The red is exactly what we want to use, so I'm going to leave it as red for now. And then the next thing is our animation, the pausing effects that we want to do. So let me call this pause. I'm going to call the animation pause, and every 1 second, and it's supposed to be infinite. Now we need to add our keyframe. Okay, we need to add our keyframe. So at keyframe, so we are targeting our pause animation, and at 0%, what we want to do is we are actually doing this using box shadow. So we're going to call this box shadow, yeah, I think box shadow, and 0 0 0 yeah, and then 0 pixel last. We are using the RGB color format. You can simply just set this to red. I'm sorry, I just hit my microphone. So let's go to RGBA color format, and then we put in our element, which is 255, which gives us red, yeah, red, and then 0.2. Okay, did I get the syntax right? Okay, I think kind of on track right now. And then when we move to 100%, we need to do something again, right? We need to do another box shadow again. So we start from a slight transparency to full transparency. yeah, to the full transparency at 20 pixels. Yeah, and then you can now see our pulsing effect taking effect over there. So now when I refresh our page, we have this over there, pulsing fine, and then we have that. Now here is the next trick that we want to actually have. I posted a screenshot of that. We can actually have the number of counts displayed over here. Okay, now how do we do that? Let's look at how we can actually do that right away. So let's add that. So we first come here, and instead of the content being empty, we can actually, you can see we can actually have anything we want over there. So I'm going to enter, let's say 3 as a test number, and I'm going to set the line height of this to let's say 1, and then the font size to test X, like that. Yeah, and then over here, okay, I already have everything set like that. So it's actually not positioned, so I think for me, I personally position this normally by setting a display flex on it, and then align content center, and then justify content as well to center. Yeah, I think I'm on track. Okay, I think this is supposed to be align items. Okay, yeah, so we have that, but then the color needs to be VAR. Yeah, so we have that there. So now it's actually showing 3, but wait, there are actually 3 messages in here, and we have entered the value manually. Now there is a query result count that comes with breaks, so we can do that by getting this ID of this element. So first, let's start by adding a data attribute, because we are going to be pulling it from here over here. So we are going to come here and say I'm going to give it any name, let's say data count, and then here we call the query result count. Yeah, query result count. Now okay, I think it's this one here. So we need to get the ID of the query loop that we want to get the count of. So basically what this one is doing is that it's going to be counting the number of messages that we have in the number of posts in this query loop, and then output the number for us. So we need to get this ID here. I'm going to copy this, and in here you put your semicolon, you paste in the ID, but you need to get rid of this part, and then we save it. Now when we save that, let's see if it's actually pulling in the right value. So to check that, you can see data count, it says 3, right? Now data count is 3. Let me just get rid of this one here and update it. Now when we come down here, our data count should be 2. Am I looking at the right place? Yeah, so data count is 2 actually. So now let's get this value as our content of this value here instead of hard-coded number. So to do that, we simply need to delete this, and then use we want to get the value of an attribute, so we set it to attr, and then the bracket, and then the name of our attribute, which is data count. Then we save that, and now we have the 2 in there for us. So now this number is going to be dynamic. If you have, let's say I'm just trying to enter more gibberish over there, and then we update it. We come in here again, and you can see it now says 5, because we actually have 1 2 3 4 5. But if you notice, this chat widget keeps getting longer and longer the more messages that we throw at it, and I don't think that is a good one. So to fix this, because this will definitely not going to be looking good on mobile, to fix this, it's very simple. We just need to restrain the height of this body. So we can say the maximum height of this should at any time be, let's say 40 rem. 40 rem is too much. No, actually I'm setting that to max height, actually not there. So now when we come here, you can see now it's 40 rem. Okay, but then something is happening. You can see everything is just cutting off like that. It's looking so weird. So I think we need to set an overflow to auto. Okay, we need to set the overflow to auto, and now I think that should pretty much solve our problem for us. Yeah, so now they can add as many messages that they want to add. It's now scrollable. But if you notice something, you can see when we are on against the background that is not white, it looks okay, but when we enter a zone where it's white, it looks like that. If you want to fix that as well, all you need to do is add a box shadow around this itself. So we need to go down to templates, pop up, and then box shadow. So I'm just going to set this to 15 as well, and on the Y axis I want to move it down, and then on the X axis let's say 3, and then the color RGB is 0.15, and I'm going to save that. And now regardless, we should have this like box shadow here that makes it to stand out regardless of what background it's on. So this brings us to the end of the video. Very sorry for it being so long. I didn't think this would have been so long like this, but anyway, I hope we were able to learn a thing or two.